we are in Pennsylvania, so our whole state is pretty closed. She's been out of school now. Well, this is the first week. All week. All next week. Probably more than that, actually, although it hasn't been officially announced yet. So, like a lot of you, we are just kind of holed up in the house. Let me know, few people checking in now. Let me know if you're having any trouble hearing me. I do have a microphone set up here, but it's meant to be a little more close range than it is at the moment, and we're in a pretty echoey room. So if you're having any trouble hearing me, let me know, and I don't know, probably just unplug this thing and use this. Anybody checking in now? Any questions you have? That's what we are here for. Theme park questions. Our family was actually just at Walt Disney World at the end of January, actually. So even Kaylee here has pretty good Disney theme park knowledge, right?
Yes.
And Universal. We were at Universal last year. So any questions about theme park stuff, about anything? Honestly, we're just here because we know a lot of people like us are kind of stuck being home and don't really know what else to do. So we figured we'd just talk to everybody. I kind of miss you. You may have noticed over the past couple of months, we haven't been putting as many videos on our YouTube channel as we did in the past. It was kind of a company-wide decision that for people who aren't aware, Touring Plans is not a big company at all. We have a handful of full-time and part-time employees, and then a bigger network of bloggers, researchers, people like that. And when we have projects, everybody just kind of gets split up and you do what you can. So we decided that video stuff was just gonna be put on hold for a little bit while we were trying to do some new projects for 2020, which I'm gonna try to put some more videos up here in the coming weeks, just because heck, I think we all need something to do. And this is only, week one for a lot of people. This is kind of week one for us of being home all the time. I'm home all the time. I just have company now. My wife's job finally this week is allowing her to work from home. The kids are home and they're thrilled about it, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah, they're thrilled until they get bored anyway.
And now we play Roblox.
They play on the computer most of the day. Yeah, actually, let me point this down. You look very short. But so luckily, knock on wood for us, neither my wife or I is being laid off. We're both still getting paid for now, so we're in a lot better situation than a lot of people. So as always, do what you can to help out, or the people who we're finding out are the real heroes. We knew doctors and nurses and people like that were already, but people that work at grocery stores, it turns out we needed them a lot more than we realized. So all right, questions are coming in now. So this is good. So all right, Angel's Heart asked, favorite ride or character experience? Go ahead. What's your favorite ride?
I like Flight of Passage.
Why?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Oh, you're great at this.
Yes.
Yeah, both her and her favorite ride is Flight of Passage. Her brother, Kaylee here, is 11, by the way, 5th grade. So my son, who's in there, I don't know what he's doing, watching YouTube probably, is his favorite ride, I think last time he said was Rock and Roller Coaster now.
I think.
Yeah. He just really started getting into roller coasters a lot. So that's not surprising. My favorite ride right now is Rise of the Resistance. I think it's the best ride that Disney has done. I think it's the best ride in a theme park, actually. So that is my favorite ride. We don't do a lot of character experiences anymore. We did this last trip we went on. We did 2 character meals. We've done a lot of character meals. We've done, I think, almost all of the character meals at Disney parks. We never did the one at the Grand Californian in Disneyland. I think that might be the only one we're missing right now. Oh, the Princess Storybook one at Wilderness Lodge we haven't done. That one's fairly new, the Snow White one. But this last time we did Garden Grill at Epcot, with Mickey and Pluto and Chip and Dale, and then we did Akershus, the princess breakfast there. So that's mostly where we get our character interactions from. So rather than actually wait in lines for the characters, they were never, even when you were littler, you were never super into meeting all the characters. And we had to meet Anna and Elsa and people like that, but not so much anymore. Let's see. Michael Beck asked if Disney is going to use this time with the parks closed to refurb attractions they've neglected. I don't know. I should probably say, I'm sure anyone watching this already knows that all the Disney parks are closed worldwide. I believe all the Universal parks are closed too. At least the domestic and Asian ones are. Pretty much all amusement theme parks, everything in the U.S. is closed. We don't actually know. I've heard whispers of information, but I don't think Disney themselves even quite knows what is going to happen. So we don't really know. We were kind of wondering that if maybe they would be able to get a little bit ahead of some of the construction, but it seems like they're not going to do that, which is probably the safe thing to do. You don't really want construction crews of hundreds of people all hanging out together all day long either. But it seems like they're not really doing that. We've heard that some of the major construction crews, at least in the Orlando area, have laid off a lot of people. So it seems like they're not going to get ahead on any construction projects. In fact, this is probably going to put them behind on stuff that is supposed to open this summer. Things like Remy's Ratatouille Adventure at Epcot or the Avengers Campus stuff at California Adventure is probably. Did you know that they were supposed to open a Spider-Man ride this summer in California Adventure?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's very likely those are going to get delayed, especially if the parks are closed longer. Right now, I don't even know when they're officially closed through, I think until April 1st, but that's not looking good. I'm going to guess May 1st at the absolute earliest is when we're going to see, although none of that is official. It's all speculation. I mean, what is official? Everything is being speculated right now. Let's see. Ashley asked, she's going to Walt Disney World in late October. What do we expect will happen to the crowd calendar with all the unknowns? We don't know. But I mean, it all depends on when they reopen. And, a lot of the experts on the COVID-19, on the coronavirus stuff are saying that this could come in waves where, we do this social distancing, but then as soon as it kind of ends, there might be another outbreak where we might have to do this again. So if something like that happens, who knows? If they open, let's say the parks open in, May or June, which I think is probably, at least internally, what they're hoping for right now. Our internal statisticians, who are not disease experts by any means, but are theme park experts, are estimating that it's going to take about 8 to 10 weeks range to ramp up to being busy. Obviously, if the parks open, especially if the parks open without much notice, so let's say we only know about 2 weeks ahead of time that they're definitively going to be open. That's not really enough time for a lot of people to make vacation plans. We're also kind of assuming that not a lot of people will want to make vacation plans right away until they know what's going on. There's a lot of people, I mentioned the top, there's a lot of people who are in a tough financial situation because of this that probably aren't going to immediately go on a vacation. So they, we're kind of assuming it's going to take about 2 months, give or take, for the crowds to really ramp up. What we're assuming once that happens is that the crowds will stay pretty steady through like the summer, if this happens before summer. Normally fall, September, October, is a lower crowd time relatively. Of course, always pretty crowded. This year, there's a lot of people that had vacations in like February, March that are postponing them. They might postpone them to the fall. if this does happen again and they have to close again at the end of the summer, then it could throw everything off. We think it's going to be at least reasonably crowded for the 6 months or so after they open. There's going to be that 2-month period where people are readjusting. Then for the next 6 months, it will probably be relatively crowded before it goes back to quote unquote normal, whatever that ends up being on the other side of this. Sorry, actually, would you mind, can you go grab me a tissue actually?
Mm-hmm.
I have a little slight runny nose. It's very odd. I'm asthmatic. Actually, she is too. And so, we're a higher risk group for this disease because it's a respiratory disease. And I've had a slight runny nose and a little bit of chest congestion for a week or so now. But at least in Pennsylvania, you can't get tested. Thank you. At least in Pennsylvania, you absolutely cannot get tested for that. I would have to have at least a fever. So, we'll see. But it's probably a cold. I'm asthmatic. My chest gets tight even with colds. So anyway, the long answer to the short question is we're not sure, but for at least, from 2 to 8 months or so after the parks open, we're expecting a higher crowd than normal, just people catching up on trips that had to postpone them from before. You don't think, even if it's a 3 or 4 month absence from the parks of people postponing trips, it kind of compiles. We see this even with hurricanes, and I'm sure some of you have noticed it, where even a hurricane only affects a week at the park, if that, but it can kind of spread out the effect over the next couple of weeks. So we think this is going to be like that, only obviously a lot worse. And Joey asked here if I thought parks would be open by Labor Day. I have no idea. I'm, like I said, I think they would love to have them open by the beginning of the summer. I don't think it's going to be up to Disney. I think it's going to be up to the CDC and the World Health Organization and the people who are actually experts at this stuff. Lisa asked about rescheduling your trip for the end of June. I wouldn't yet. Disney's going to let you reschedule or cancel as long as this stuff is going on. You might as well, unless there's other reasons that you're nervous about doing it. I'm sorry, it's very shaky. I'm kind of leaning on the table here to make sure the microphone's picking me up okay, and I'm shaking everything. But so I don't think you necessarily have to yet, but obviously keep an eye on that. Let's see. Here is another question. Will we see boarding groups for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway? We didn't get to ride Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Unfortunately, we were about a month early for that one, which is too bad because it looked fun. You haven't seen any of the videos from that, have you?
No.
I don't think we'll end up with boarding groups when it was running. And I mean, it was only running for 2 weeks before the park shut down. But even with that, it was digesting the crowds pretty well. There were even like in the middle of the day, and again, it was tough to tell. This was kind of right at the start of the pandemic. So they, crowds were starting to get a little suppressed, but, we were seeing 45 minutes to an hour waits on, like late afternoon, kind of range. So that's not bad. If it continues to move crowds like that, they're not going to need them. I think we're being invaded by the rest of the family. So, so that is my wife, and that's and our puggle Cedric. You saw him if you watched my preview video. You saw Cedric yesterday. He's a snuggler. And my son's standing out there. He doesn't want to come out. You don't want to be on? No, okay. I don't think Disney wants to do boarding groups for everything because that would their system is just barely dealing with the rise of the resistance boarding groups. When we were there, we only got to ride it once. And even that day, we were in the 100, and we were boarding group like 105 or something because the app froze up when we were trying to do it. So, they, I don't think they're going to want to overload their systems even more, especially if if Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway continues to move people quickly. So I think they're going to reserve that for rides where the throughput is uncertain, meaning that, like Rise of the Resistance, I got to stop accentuating by pointing at the table because I'm shaking everything. I don't know why it's so shaky today. But they I completely forgot what I was going to say. Oh, but Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is not having too much in the way of performance of maintenance issues, where Rise of the Resistance, of course, is, which is why they don't know how many people are going to go through it. Novatics, hello from Scranton, PA. We are, I can see Scranton from here. It's right over there, actually. So, hi. Let's see. Oh, this keeps jumping to the end on me here. Trying to get through as many of the questions in order in the 45 minutes or so I have before my wife has to do a work meeting, and we have to use our enclosed porch out here, which is nice. We can see the outside at least, which is something. But it's also one of the few rooms we have that can be completely closed off from the noise inside. Open floor plans are great for, living together, but not when everybody's making a ton of noise. Let's see. Ricardo asks, in terms of taking advantage ahead of the crowd, do you think Walt Disney World is more is more playing hard and USF is more pay to win? I'm not 100% sure what that means as far as the question goes. I think Universal is going to take a little bit longer to rebound, if that's what you mean. Universal just doesn't get the crowds that Disney does to start with. So I think, and they don't have the amount of like pass holders and semi-locals flocking to it like Disney tends to. So I think you're gonna, if you're looking at going to one or the other, like once they are both open, I think Universal is going to struggle for a little bit longer than Disney was. But I mean, once it comes back, it'll all come back. Claire says, seems like taking the kids out of school in the fall will be particularly difficult if teachers are playing catch up from being out this spring. Yeah, I mean, it all depends what the schools decide to do. They, if they can't finish this school year, I really don't know what they're going to do. I mean, we only made it through we almost made it to the end of our third quarter. Our third quarter ends next week, I believe. So, is 2 2/3 of in 2 2/3 quarters of I know mixed thirds and quarters there, but is that enough to move the kids on to graduate seniors? I have no idea. That is, so if they decide, like if the Pennsylvania Department of Education here just decides, fine, that's enough. Everybody just, if you were passing, you pass. Great, good job. Then I don't think anything will change for next year. If not, if they decide, okay, the first, 6 weeks of next year are basically going to be teaching them what they missed from this year, then yeah, absolutely not, people. And that might be a state to state thing, which we do track. We track school schedules, everything like that every year, because especially certain school districts, New York, Boston, Chicago, those big ones, if they have a lot of kids out for an extended period, Disney World gets busier. That's, how it goes. So we track all that stuff, and we will. It'll just be a little more complicated tracking. Let's see. Ashley said she expected a not sure answer. If anything, I am long-winded in my answers. So even if it's not sure, I will say 1,000 words to get there. Let's see. JKL 2000 says, such a mess. Sorry for you guys. Don't be sorry for us. We are just fine. Our touring plans is luckily run very well. My boss, Len Testa, has put a lot of things in place Obviously people aren't subscribing as much to touring plans right now, and yeah, of course they're not. Nobody exactly knows when they can plan their next trip, but we are just fine, and we will be for quite a while. So, but thank you. We will be back when everybody else is, I'm sure. In the meantime, we are just going to try to entertain you as much as possible and work on some new products. So when everything comes back to normal, we will be ready with, one of the things we're working on is a redesign of our Lines app, which will hopefully be ready sometime this year. So, that'll be fun. Chad asked if there's any word on when an extended closure might be announced. No, I think, like I said, I think they're waiting on the CDC, I think, which is the Center for Disease Control here in the United States. I think either them or WHO, the World Health Organization, has recommended like 8 weeks for the U.S. from, I think, this past week. So we would have about 7 more, which would take us to mid-May, something like that. So I would be shocked to see anything open before then, like anything big like Disney World. I think in California now they have said they don't want people really interacting as many as they want people interacting as little as possible until mid-April, I think they've said. So therefore Disneyland most likely won't open till at least then. But I think this is a lot of this. And plus, it's you have to understand it's a little bit of a psychological game too, where if Disney comes out right now and says we're not opening until June 1st, it's going to feel really, really far away. Where if they do it like 2 weeks, a month at a time, it does help. It reminds me, any 30 Rock fans out there, there was an episode or a run where Liz was dating Matt Damon, and not Matt Damon, a character he played that was a pilot. And in the episode where they broke up, she was on the plane and he kept saying, oh, it's going to be about a half an hour. And he told her, well, they say that because they figured out that's the exact amount of time where people will accept it and know it's going to be some time, but they won't really get too upset about it. And I feel like that's kind of what we're in now, where you just keep hearing like, it's going to be about 2 more weeks. And those 2 weeks are going to start adding up a little bit. So I think Disney's going to kind of, unless there's a government order that says, okay, none of this stuff can open before June 1st, but I think other than that, they're going to do what they can to keep people's spirits moving forward. Let's see. John. Oh, hi, John. John's a regular. John Self is a regular on our chats. And I lost his question. Oh, man. There it is. Any clue when boarding groups will stop being used for Rise of the Resistance? I think Disney would love to stop using boarding groups for Rise of the Resistance. What did you think about having to get the boarding group instead of waiting in line? Did you like that? Or would you rather have wait in line?
I would rather wait in line.
What if the line was like 5 hours long? Would you still rather wait in line, or would you rather get the boarding group?
I mean, I'd probably rather wait in line.
Even with a really long line like that?
Yeah.
A lot of people agree with her. I personally like the boarding group system, but we get up early and get to the parks early anyway. So, we're there. It stinks. I'll tell you from personal experience, it stinks real hard when you are there very early and something happens with the app and you get a late boarding group, which is exactly what happened to us. But I don't mind it. But Disney, I think, would love to drop it. It's a tax on their system. People get annoyed if they get to the park 5 minutes after they open and you're just told you can't ride today. If their app crashes and you're told you can't ride today, that it's terrible. It's awful, but it's the best system they have at the moment because they don't know when the ride's going to operate completely. I think as soon as they can get a reasonable throughput of people onto the ride every day consistently, they will drop the boarding group system immediately and go to just the standard queue, probably with fast passes, which is going to slow the queue down quite a bit. But I think as soon as that happens, I mean, I think we were estimating, about a year seems to be the going rate for mechanical issues for this sort of ride. I mean, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure opened in June, and it's still having some issues. Now, they never did the virtual queue there, which is why we didn't get to ride it actually when we were at Universal last year. But you can go whenever you want. You don't have to sit here.
No.
Okay.
There's a lot of bugs on the window.
There are a lot of bugs on the window. Must be spring. But they, and they're still having issues, and it's been, 8-9 months for them. So it seems to be about a year is when the parks kind of figure out these regular issues. So, it could be like Christmas time before they drop it. Ash Arts asks if the closures will affect tracking accurate wait times. Yeah, for a little while. I mean, once we get caught up on how the nice thing with the way we have our system set up is that it adapts really, really quickly. So if they open the parks back up and it's just a ghost town, we'll adjust to that. And if it's swamped, we'll adjust to that. That's one of the things the Lines app is great at, because while our crowd calendar predictions, we have to go through and reanalyze and upload, which we can do within a day or two. But, but we don't like doing that all the time, because we don't want to mess with people's plans going forward too much unless it's a really important change. The Lines app updates in real time. So if you are using a touring plan in the park, and you're using your phone for it, and instead of miming the phone, I'm going to hold my phone at least, and you're using the Lines app for it, you can optimize anytime on the Lines app, and it will adjust to real-time data. So if a ride is closed, it will take that off the plan. It'll tell you that. If a ride is seeing unusually high wait times or unusually low wait times, it will readjust your plan based on that. So that's what, for uncertain times, like when the park opens back up, that's where the Lines app becomes really, really useful. And it's also one of the reasons we tell people that the touring plan is more important than picking the park based on the crowd calendar. Crowd calendar definitely helps, especially if it's if one park is like a 9 and one is like a 3, which occasionally can happen. If one has like really short hours or something like that you'll see that sometimes. So the crowd calendar is nice for that, but getting there, when the park opens and using the plan, it really doesn't matter as much what the crowd level is. Yeah, Todd says it's pouring rain in North Mississippi, so looking outside isn't as encouraging. Yeah, it's actually it looks really bright behind me there, only because I'm dark because I didn't turn any of my overhead lights on here. But it's actually pretty gray and cloudy out there, and it was raining all morning. So although it's like 70 here, which is crazy, and tomorrow it's supposed to be like 42. Pennsylvania is weird. Lisa asked if I think the prices will go up because the closing is surely impacting Disney financially. That's a tricky one. I don't think so. I think Disney, I'm not saying Disney doesn't want the money. That's not Disney at all. They want all of the money. Am I boring you? I am. But I think they know that what it will look like from a public relations standpoint if they all of a sudden raise their prices right after something like this. I actually wouldn't be shocked if we see not a decrease in prices, but maybe a ticket deal. They were doing that like 4-day, 4-park deal a little bit ago, just something like that to try to encourage people to come, because I think they realize that it's going to be a struggle to get people to travel again after this. So I think I could see them more enticing. I think we're going to see some pretty good hotel rates, maybe a ticket deal to get people to go. Now, once the parks are open again for 6-8 months, especially after new stuff starts opening, after, speaking for Disney World, let's say after Remy's opens, next year is the 50th anniversary, 2021. And they're opening new stuff, I think the prices will absolutely go up then. But I think they're going to be, I want to say nice about it, but I don't think it's them being nice. I think it's them being realistic about it. A 21 News Junkie here asked about affecting late September. Like I said before, it all depends when the parks reopen. I think late September will, if they open in the summer, late September will be like normal, which is to say, a relatively lower crowd than like the summer or Christmas time. It might be a little higher than normal Septembers as people reschedule their trips. If the parks don't open until August, then September is going to be a little on the busy side. Let's see here. I really hate how this jumps to the bottom every time I try. Novatics asks, what's my favorite pizza place in West Side? We don't get. I live in Dunmore now, which has a ton of pizza places, so we don't go outside. My favorite in Dunmore is Nardozzi's on Blakely Ave. But in West Side, I always liked Vincenzo's on Main Ave, and I went to West Scranton High School. So we could go outside for lunch in the 90s when I was there. And we used to walk down to Roberto's, which was down by was Faye's then on Luzerne Street. So I'm a little partial to that. And look, there's Len there answering what pizza places are favorite on the west side of Manhattan. If anybody wants that, I think they're from Scranton, Len Novatics there. So I think they were asking about here, but it's always good to find good pizza places in Manhattan as well. Spencer here asking in a variation on the same question here, where about people spreading their trips out, whether people will reschedule later this year or postpone to next year. I think there's a lot of factors that are going to go into that. When the parks open, like I said, people's job situations are going to be a big factor in that. People that are the type that want to save up money for the trip ahead of time, maybe they have to use some of that money now and it's going to take them a little while. I think the longer this goes, the more likely it is that people just say, okay, you know what? We were going to go in February this year. We'll just go in February next year. I could definitely see that happening. Especially people that were going for a reason. Maybe they were going for, flower and garden in March, just going to wait and go in flower and garden next year and just take a whole year off and just see what happens. So I think it's going to be a combination of the two, but it's just, there's so many factors right now. That's something that we'll talk plenty about when we know when the parks are reopening. Let's see. Jeff here asked, how do you feel about the Spaceship Earth revamp? Excited and different concerns. So this is actually a question I can ask you. So Spaceship Earth, you know which one that is? The one inside the big geosphere, the golf ball? They are completely redoing it. It is closed, and they haven't actually said what they're doing. They're keeping I think they're supposed to keep the general theme of communication or something. So what do you think? You like that ride as it is now, correct?
Yes.
So what do you think about them redoing? What are your feelings on them redoing it? Do you wish they would keep it like it is? Are you happy to see something new? What do you want them? What do you hope they do to it? Lean in. Speak words.
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Well, do you wish they kept it like it is now, or are you happy that they're redoing it?
I'm happy that they're redoing it.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little more. I'm kind of actually feeling the same way. I'm not the most sentimental of people. So I don't usually mind when they update attractions. The huge exception to that is what they did to the original Journey into Imagination. But, and I mean, I would be sad if they closed certain rides, or, if they had decided to, say, convert Tower of Terror in Florida to the Guardians of the Galaxy version, which I do like. But the Florida Tower of Terror is so much better than the one in California already. I would have been upset, but I would have gotten over it. Stop shaking your legs. Spaceship Earth, I love. And I love that it's one of the few like real edutainment rides still left in Epcot. It's basically that and Living with the Land, which I made them go on and they hated this time. They used to like it. She used to like it when she was littler. Um, but they stop shaking your legs. You're shaking the table. But I'm hoping that they do more of an update and technologically and go through some more recent advances, since it kind of stops now with the invention of the personal computer. Even if they went to a more ethereal version of it where like instead of going into specifics about technology, because that's always going to look old 5 years later, just something about how we interact now as people. And you know what, that might change a lot over the next couple of months, because we're using this technology a lot more than we did last week. That's for sure. I mean, school classes online, you can take fitness classes online, guitar lessons. It's crazy how much has changed this week, which feels like a year. Dahlin, I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name there, asked if we recommend weekdays for the not so scary Halloween party. Just in general, one of the things I'm going to be working on here very soon is my annual best parties to go to. I'm assuming that the parks are open by the time we get to Halloween and Christmas parties, but almost always the weekday parties are the best. The Tuesday night ones are still some of the least busy. If there's a Thursday night one, that's usually pretty good. Fridays, Sundays will be busier. As always with the Not So Scary Halloween party, the closer you get to October, the busier it's going to get. So, you mentioned October 24th and October 29th. I don't know what days of the week this year, although October 29th is her birthday. And I don't remember what day of the week it's on this year, but the 29th will most likely be significantly busier than the 24th. Actually, you know what? Now that I say that, I usually it is, but I haven't really looked at it because I think there's always a party on Halloween, and I think there's a November 1st or 2nd one this year. So maybe if the 29th one is a weekday, that might not be as bad. But look for my blog post. And probably accompanying video coming out about those. I'll go into more detail once I look at it. Inside the Hall here asks about annual passes because they're being extended right now for the closure. And do I think that will remain the case? I do. The last people that Disney wants to alienate right now is their pass holders, because pass holders are what's going to get them through this when the parks reopen. They're going to be the first ones back, especially the local and semi-local pass holders. So they really, really want to keep pass holders happy. They're not gonna let those expire. Let's see here. Yeah, John here says that Universal, he's hearing something different if it goes really long, that they may not extend pass holders. I don't have a Universal pass anymore, so I'm not getting too much info on that. But gosh, that seems like a bad PR move to knock out your pass holders. I'm trying to adjust here so we don't keep getting light and dark. It's a bad thing with doing this out here. The lighting is always really. Let's see. Steve says he's considering not renewing his Disney annual pass because of the firing of the live entertainment at Epcot. Yeah, that's what, and it kind of depends. Right now, as weird as this is to say, in a lot of cases right now, people being laid off or fired is a good thing for them. If it's a situation where the company, especially smaller businesses, where they cannot afford to pay everyone during the shutdown, they're better off getting fired and getting unemployment I believe that in Pennsylvania here, they even waived the waiting period on unemployment. So you can file like right away. Disney obviously is in a position they can afford to pay everybody all the time, pretty much for probably years if they needed to. But so I don't know, and there hasn't been an indication if they are expecting to bring all this live entertainment. And I know like Sergio, the mime juggler, is one of them. The drummers in Japan, and there's others that I'm forgetting. But if that's the plan, that like, okay, here, go get unemployment, and then we'll hire you back as soon as we're open, then I'm fine with it. If the plan is, we just need to cut as much money as possible and we'll figure something out later, that's not great. Angel's Heart asked if we're going to do more Q&A videos. Yeah, probably. Like I said, I'm going to try to do some more videos. Because I still have work to do. It is a little tougher working at home because somebody keeps taking my computer to play video games.
Who is it?
But yeah, I will try to get some more videos. And I see somebody mentioned Jeff there mentioned a map video. I think I had caught up on all my map videos, but it wouldn't hurt to do another one. We'll figure something out, I'm sure. Spencer asked if we expect Disney World to increase hours, extra magic hours, things like that to make up for the lost time. I don't think so. I think they're going to come back with pretty reduced hours actually in the beginning, because they aren't going to be sure about who's going to show up. And then they're just going to make all those decisions based on how many people are actually there. So we will see. So somebody, Mill's there, self-quarantined, ended up here. Me too. Watching from Fiji. Really wish I was self-quarantined in Fiji. Even if you can't go outside, just to look out the window, it's better than this. Man, Laura watching from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. What a great name. Well, it reminds me of the John Travolta, Christian Slater movie, which is hilariously bad. Broken Arrow, not Oklahoma. Now it's reminding me of the play Oklahoma, but okay. My brain is fried already. Apparently there wasn't much there to begin with. Let's see what time we got here. Okay. I got a couple more minutes is all. And then, we're going to run, but, Laura said they've been planning their first family Disney vacation for December 6th. At least by December, the park should be open. Praise Jeebus. Hopefully they're open by then. I don't even know what we would do if we were doing this until December. But the crowd levels, normally early December is a great time to visit because it's a kind of a crowd lull in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, but all the Christmas decorations and stuff are out. It looks really pretty. I think that will still be the case. It might be higher than other years, but I think compared to like Thanksgiving, Christmas breaks, that's still going to be a pretty good time to go. Go ahead and plan for that one all you want right now. Kevin asked about the likelihood that Disney cuts projects for the 50th anniversary. Projects that haven't started yet, I think that might be likely. Luckily, all the big projects have already started. The Tron roller coaster, Tron Light Cycle, Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind. They're not going to scrap those. They're partially done already. Like that. Not that Disney couldn't just leave a roller coaster track sitting there. Heck, look at the Pop Century Legendary Years, which is now Art of Animation, but for years just sat there as empty buildings. But an empty building, off to the side of a resort is a little different than a very visible roller coaster in the Magic Kingdom. So, that stuff I could see now. Yeah, Kevin's asked about the Star Wars Galactic Cruiser Hotel. That one I don't think will be scrapped. They've made too big a deal of that. for it to just be nothing. I could see it being pushed back another year or so, though. That one definitely is a little more out of the way. You don't see that as much. They can push their rides for next year, and just say, okay, and that'll be in the future. I could definitely see them doing that. So we will see. And I think I am going to stop there. Thank you all very much for watching. We will try to be back as much as possible, and I'll try to get some more videos out. I really appreciate the question. This is, helps me just as much as anybody. Everybody, stay safe, wash your hands, act as if you're already sick is the best advice I have heard to keep you from giving it to everybody else, and stay much farther apart than we are right now. Fine. Social distancing. All right. Thank you, everyone. Be excellent to each other.
Bye, everyone.